Echoes of the Cursed Trail. The sun was already setting when Sarah reached into the back seat of the dusty van, pulling out her weathered history book. She had been fascinated with the old Spanish trail ever since she'd first read about it in one of her college courses. The trade route, once vital for commerce, now lay forgotten under the vast Nevada sky, rumored to be haunted by the ghosts of lost travelers and cursed treasure. "Last stop before we camp," Sarah said, tucking the book back into her bag. "An old mining town. We'll have our own adventure." Her friends, a mix of eager adventurers and skeptical bystanders, laughed. There was Emma, always the voice of reason, quick to laugh at Sarah's academic obsession. Kayla, her childhood friend who had an adventurous spirit, but not quite Sarah's academic drive. And then the guys, Tom, the practical one, always leaning towards caution, Leo, who was excited but had a penchant for pranks, and Chris, quiet but sharp-eyed. Sometimes he saw things no one else noticed. "Sure, we're just doing this for the Instagram posts," Leo teased, already fiddling with his camera. "I swear, if one more person pulls out a phone instead of enjoying the moment, I'm out," Kayla retorted, rolling her eyes as they turned onto a bumpy dirt road. The town was little more than a crumbling ghost of its former self. Dust-choked buildings leaned at odd angles, and the cracked earth beneath their feet had long since swallowed the life that had once thrived there. Faded signs clung desperately to broken structures, words illegible in the harsh light of the fading day. It was eerie, the way the wind whispered through the empty streets, carrying a heavy, almost oppressive weight. "Perfect place for a campfire," joked Tom, tossing a bag over his shoulder. They set up their tents by what looked like a long-abandoned saloon, the wooden sign barely clinging to its rusted hinges. As darkness settled in, a fire crackled, but the warmth of the flames did little to dispel the chill creeping up Sarah's spine. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them just out of sight. "You okay?" Emma asked, her voice soft, her hand lightly brushing Sarah's arm. Sarah nodded, but her eyes kept darting to the shadows that seemed to stretch unnaturally long. "Just strange." Kayla shrugged. "It's a ghost town. Of course it's strange. Let's just not think about it too much." Leo grinned. "Or we could try and get some shots of the ghosts for the vlog." The group laughed off her discomfort. It was a joke to them, part of the charm of the place. But as the night deepened, the air grew heavier. The wind picked up, moaning through the ghost town like the remnants of long-dead voices. Then it began. A low creaking echoed through the town, followed by the soft thud of footsteps, too heavy, too deliberate for any of them. No one spoke at first, too afraid to break the tension that had descended. Then from somewhere in the distance, a voice cried out, a man's voice, desperate, barely audible over the wind. It was the sound of someone lost. "Did you hear that?" whispered Tom, his face pale in the firelight. Everyone nodded. Even Sarah, who had prided herself on being the skeptic, felt a shiver crawl down her back. "What is that?" Leo asked, his voice breaking the silence. Kayla stood up abruptly, walking towards the source of the sound. "Maybe it's someone else stranded out here," she suggested, though there was a noticeable edge to her voice. As the night wore on, more sounds filled the air, footsteps, whispers, and the distant clanging of metal. One by one they began to see glimpses, flickers in the dark. Figures, half-formed and ghostly, standing at the edge of their campfire's light, vanishing as quickly as they appeared. Each vision more distinct than the last. The image of a man disheveled with dirt-streaked clothes. A child clutching a small doll, her face hollow with hunger. "I swear I just saw something," Chris said, his voice low, looking over his shoulder. "That's it, I'm out," Leo said, standing up quickly. "This is getting creepy. I'm heading back to the van." "I'm with Leo," Tom muttered. "It's not funny anymore." But Sarah's curiosity only deepened. There has to be a reason for all this. A story, a history. "Sarah, no," Emma said urgently. "Don't get caught up in this. We need to leave." But it was too late. Sarah's mind was already racing. She had studied the old Spanish trail for years, its history, its tragedies. And here, in this forsaken place, she felt closer to understanding the truth than ever before. She pulled out her flashlight and started walking toward the ruins of the mining town, the others hesitating behind her. "Stay close," Chris said, his tone grave but his eyes never leaving the dark. Minutes later, Sarah found herself standing before an old shack near the town's edge. The door, yawning open like an invitation, creaked as she stepped inside. There, pinned to the wall, was an ancient map. It was old, frayed at the edges, but clear enough to show a hidden location, one marked with the crude image of a mountain. The map promised a stash of gold, treasure long lost in the annals of time. But the markings surrounding the map were ominous and written in small, barely legible script, a warning: do not seek that which has been buried. The dead do not forgive. Sarah's pulse quickened as the pieces of the puzzle clicked into place. This was it, the treasure her books had alluded to, the one that had claimed so many lives. But as she traced the map with trembling fingers, the air grew thick, stifling, as if the town itself was holding its breath. "Sarah," Tom's voice was tight with fear. "Come back. We're leaving." But it was too late. The spirit of the cursed treasure had already been awakened. As she turned to leave the shack, the shadows around her began to twist and writhe. Figures emerged from the darkness, no longer mere glimpses but full apparitions, each one more grotesque than the last. Faces twisted in eternal agony, the remains of travelers who had sought the treasure and never returned. The others screamed as one by one they were snatched into the darkness. Leo and Kayla vanished with hardly a sound, dragged into the walls of the decrepit buildings. Tom's last words were cut off by a horrific scream, echoing through the wind. Only Emma, Chris, and Sarah remained. "Run!" Chris shouted, his voice frantic. But Sarah's legs felt like lead. The map. The treasure. She had to finish what she'd started. He had to end it. The last of her friends, Emma, was gone by the time she reached the outskirts of the town, her footsteps echoing in the night. In the distance, the bright lights of Las Vegas gleamed like a false promise on the horizon. They were close now, the spirit's only moments behind her. She stumbled onto the highway, the hum of traffic a cruel reminder of the normal world she had almost forgotten. But the curse had followed her, and it had already begun to warp the reality around her. In the neon-lit streets of Las Vegas, the world turned upside down. The crowds, the flashing lights, all became a maze of distorted reflections. In the windows she saw herself but not her own face. It was twisted in fear, her eyes wide with terror. She turned away but the reflection followed. The spirit had crossed into the present, now manifesting in every reflective surface, hunting her down. Sarah's breath came in shallow gasps. He had to go back. There was no choice. With a final surge of will, Sarah found her way back to the old mining town, her mind racing. The treasure. The cursed treasure. The only way to end it was to return it to its rightful place, to lay the souls to rest. In the desolate town she stood before the ghosts, sickly pale, hollow-eyed. "I'm sorry," she whispered as the wind howled through the crumbling buildings. "I'll put it back." But as she lowered the treasure back into the earth, the ground trembled beneath her feet. The ghosts watched, their faces filled with silent sorrow. "Think."